I don't even know. Can you see? You can see this screen, but not that screen. Good morning, afternoon. It's actually 1 p.m. I was like, okay, we're going to wake up and we're going to intensely do this Patrick Collins training. And then I woke up and I am doing work for my metaverse, which it took me like 13 hours yesterday to do, to just put everybody's work in here. So we yeah, we have some of Bambook's art AI work to put in here, but everybody else's work is in here. So we are on schedule ish for this. I just need to stop spending time in here and spend more time in this, which I already paid the ad tax, but that was an hour ago when I was first like, yeah. So first goal. Okay, we're setting out goals. Literally, this is what happens whenever I have any free time. I'm like, oh, well, I have an entire today is okay. First of all, why do I always get confused by this? I want to get to lesson 8 today, so we have 2 hours. I would like to get through lesson 8 today, but you know, sure. But yeah, it's today's is People's Indigenous Day, so I don't have to go into my day job, and yeah, we're just going to do this for now. So
the pre-deploy stuff. We only do this sometimes. We don't always deploy mocks, right? We don't need to deploy mocks to Rinkeby or Polygon.
So let me get my head around this again. I figured if I can just start, you keep me honest, okay? So we're on lesson 7, and we just created this deploy script, and it goes before the fund me. So this is like setting things up, and we only mock things if it is local
or Ethereum mainnet, because those already have these price feeds. We're actually going to deploy our own mock price feed contracts, and in our deploy fund me script, we're going to use our own contracts instead of already established contracts if we're on a network that doesn't have any price feed contracts, like Hardhat or localhost, for example. So let's write our deploy mock script. So the setup of this is going to look nearly identical to our deploy fund me. And again, if you want to set it up like this, you absolutely can. But I'm actually just going to copy this part, paste it in here, because that initial part's going to be exactly the same. Oh, and over here, I just realized that we're calling this network thing without it being defined. JavaScript will kind of be smart enough to know where this network thing is coming from, but it can be a little bit confusing. So it's better to be really explicit and say const network equals require Hardhat.
Do these even look the same? Like, not even close. Okay. Open this up into a new tab. Go to lesson 7, go to their GitHub, go to the scripts, no, go to the deploy folder. What is their fund me doing? So we have network config require network config. they were talking about, which is weird that I don't have the const network fire. Then we have the module exports, the async, get named accounts, deployments. We have deploy and log, which we haven't used yet. We have the deployer, await, get named accounts, chain ID, network. Okay, config chain ID. Now, I don't know if the rest of this is just something that we haven't deployed or implemented yet. Yes, that's the word I wanted to use. So basically, so I did this function. But we're going to be doing an if-then statement instead, I guess. So he started it with let. So if the chain ID so he's doing double equals, which is not how we usually write. So if we are local or the network configuration is just not in the network configuration, which we just created this. So if it's 5 or 137, we're good. But if it's not 5 or 137, we want to run this code, which is something I don't think that we've actually implemented that yet. And then we can just say network config chain ID dot. Oh, and he didn't do chaining, which he should, as much as possible. And then, so this part is where we're actually implementing right now. So the ternary statement is just like a fancy way of like the more, I would say, like professional way of doing it. But he's not trying to be tricky, right? He wants it to make sense for us. So this network here makes sense, right? We have to import hard hat somewhere. So what are we doing?
And say const network equals require hard hat. This network thing is coming from hard hat. And we're going to grab this line, and we're also going to use this at the top of our script here.
Okay, so I missed the part where we actually started filling out what the module exports is, like what just the main function of the deploy script. So module exports equals async get named accounts. We're using the arrow operator. Okay. I was going to look and see because this has the same thing here. I just don't know if we actually have sent that, or if that's just something Hard Hat knows what to do.
Here. And then our top section is going to look exactly the same as well.
Okay, so basically these are all the same. We need all of the definitions.
Well, we're going to grab these 3 lines and paste them in. Deploy, deployer, chain ID, boom. It's all going to be the same here because we're setting up to deploy some stuff. Now, we want to deploy a new contract, but if we look at our contracts folder, this is all we have right now. So we're going to need to add this mock, this fake contract to our contracts folder. Now, what we can do is in our contracts folder, we want to separate this file from the rest of our files so that we know, okay, this isn't part of.
Yeah, this makes sense, but no, that's not what we want. We want to go into and then enter, and what are we calling it? I would go with __ mocks __
of our project, but it is part of our testing. So we're going to right click, create new folder, and we can either call it mocks or test. I like to call mine test. And inside of this folder,
okay. Test. So inside the contract, we have tests, and
we can go ahead and right click, create a new file. And we're going to create a new file and call it mock v3 aggregator.
I think I've said this before, but I really enjoy how I'm not the only one that sometimes pronounces words how they're spelt. That way, especially as I'm spelling them. So I usually say aggregator, right? So aggregator, like the animal gator. Maybe that's just my accent.
.sol.
And it's a .sol. Take a muscle. Okay. So for souls, we need to do the SPDX and the pragma shebang.
And this is where we're going to define our mock price feed aggregator ourselves. So how can we create our own fake price feed contract so we can test everything locally? Well, one thing we could do is we could go to the Chainlink GitHub repo and go through the contracts and find one of these price feed addresses. Source, V8, or maybe we'll go back to source. Maybe we'll check in V6. Looks like we could find some stuff and look around, and we could probably copy paste all of this code, but that really seems like kind of a huge pain in the butt to have to copy all this code. Now, we absolutely could. We could copy paste the code in here, but we're going to do something a little bit more clever. So the Chainlink repo actually comes with some mocks. If we go to contracts src v0.6 tests, they actually have a.
Okay, so go to contracts, and we have So GitHub, yeah, so smart contract kit, chain link, tree, I don't see develop, I do see contracts. Source. So mocks and test are different. I usually, sometimes with GitHub, it does weird pasting, so I usually switch to the raw and then paste in. So there is a Mach 3 aggregator.sol. So this is nice to know. I'm going to eventually we're going to be on I should get a Web3 folder going. It's fine.
A mock v3 aggregator.sol in here that we can use as our mock. So we could copy paste everything, but we'd have to revamp a little bit of it because it's doing some dot stuff. It's talking to other contracts that are locally in this file structure that are not going to be in our file structure. So instead, though, what we can do is we can use this node modules package to our advantage. We can just say pragma solidity caret 0.6.0. We'll use the same version that that package is doing, and then just do import ath chainlink slash contracts slash src slash v0.
Wow. This is like math when so oh no, okay, so if we go to chainlink and we go to source, go to v8 mocks, so we're actually import chainlink contracts source v0 dot 8 slash mocks slash mock gator dot sol.
0.6 slash tests slash mock v3 aggregator. .sol, and then we'll add, and then of course we'll add SPDX license identifier.
So it's here. And
our MIT, and boom, this is actually all we need. If we just import the...
What if we just changed it to 0.6? 0.6. It's weird. I don't like it. It's fine.
The code like this, remember, this is exactly the same as copy pasting this contract into our project, of course, with this path resolved to where it actually is in our node modules. Now, actually, I can run yarn hard hat compile, and it'll also compile.
You have 4 files compiled successfully.
This contract, except for, of course, we have an issue. Hey, compiler versions don't match, right? What's up with that? Now, you're going to get into situations where you will be working with contracts that are not the same version of Solidity as you. Why? Well, because contracts keep being deployed all the time, and there are a ton of contracts that are on version 0.4 of Solidity, 0.5, 0.6, 7, 8, and probably 9, 10, or 15 billion, or however many Solidity versions will come to be. So in our config, in our hardhat.config, we can scroll to the bottom, we can scroll to where we're defining our Solidity version, and we can actually add multiple Solidity versions.
This was a teaching moment. I want no part of this. But we're going to go through this so that I have, you know, it's probably like Solidity 0.8.17, and then zero dot 6.0 or something dumb like that.
So that our compiler can compile multiple versions of Solidity. To do that, we'll say Solidity, and we'll turn it into an object here. We'll make sure to put this comma here. And inside our Solidity object, we'll put compilers, and we'll have a list.
Okay, so I was a little bit wrong, but not by much. So we make Solidity into an object. We need to do compilers, and then that's an array.
Of compilers. Our first one we'll say is version 0.8.8, and we'll say our second one is going to be version 0.6.
Okay, so this is an array of objects. And 0.6 dot something.
6.
666. So we can go back to here like they wanted us to, and 6 and 6. I don't know why it says 4 instead of 5.
And then we'll go ahead and save that. And it looks like mine wanted to format it like this, which is fine. Now we can go ahead, rerun yarn hardhat compile, and boom, compiled 5 Solidity files successfully. This means that our mock v aggregator should also have been compiled. And if we look in artifacts,
So artifacts, and now we have 2 chain link stuff. And we have 2 contracts. We have build info.
At Chainlink, we do indeed see this at chainlink/contract/src bit, and in v0.6 in tests, we see this mock aggregator.sol, which has been compiled. Awesome. So now that we have our mock contract compiled, we now have a contract that we can use to deploy a fake price feed to a blockchain. So how do we actually do this? Well, it's going to be the exact same way that we deployed the FundMe contract, but we're going to add a little if statement in here. We don't want to deploy this mock contract to a testnet or a network that actually has a price feed on it. We could just do something like if chain ID does not.
Okay, so if
not equal, some chain ID, then deploy mocks, right? And then this is kind of pseudocode. Obviously, this code won't actually work. But instead, what I like is I actually like to specify which chains are going to be my development chains, which chains are going to be the one that I can deploy these mocks to. In my helper hardhead config, I'll define these chains. So I'll say const development chains.
okay, so we have the helper. We're just going to const development chains equals and we export it to, and then we can import this require
equals, and then I'll just say hard hat and localhost.
So hard hat and localhost are defined here, I think. Yeah, so we've done localhost. So this is hard hat and localhost, development chains.
I'll export these, and back in my deploy mocks, I'll import these with const development chains equals require ... helper hardhead config. And now I'll say if development chains dot includes chain ID. This includes keyword basically is a function that checks to see if some variable is inside an array. Then we're going to go ahead and deploy mocks, which is what we want to do. So we'll do log, which we're getting from deployments, which is basically console.log. we'll say local network detected deploying mocks. And we'll do await deploy, and we'll deploy our new mock v3 aggregator. Mock v3 aggregator, we'll do a comma, do our little colons here. If we want to get really specific, we could say contract, mock v3 aggregator, which we're kind of already saying. We'll say from deployer. We'll say logging is going to be true.
Okay. So contract. Implied. Then from log true.
And then we need to pass some arguments. We need to pass the constructor parameters for the mock v3 aggregator, which are what? Well, let's go to docs.chain2link to find out. Or you can also just go to node modules, chainlink, src, v06, tests, then all the way down to mock v3 aggregator.sol, where you could also find the constructor in here, whatever one you like better. Sometimes I find it easier just to read GitHub. Control plus F or Command plus F for
you can just press the letter T. So press the letter T and you can do mock v3 aggregator, and you can choose the one that you need, which would be this one. So this has underscore decimals, which defines the amount of decimals, and then we have the initial answer. I'm not sure what public as a part of the constructor does.
Constructor, we see, it takes a decimals and an initial answer. And if we read through the code, we'll learn that and
that's why in here we've that always confuses me because it has like underscore, but then when you define it, you don't. So we're defining this outside of the function. And when you match this is $2,000 with the 8 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you could probably do that too, I think. So the initial price is $2,000, which is okay. And then, so after the log, we do args. It's really good practice to always have like if you have an if statement, to also have an else statement. So if I do npm run Gorelli network --network Gorelli, then I'm just gonna go ahead because I'm reading this. But outside of exports, I think he's doing that on separate lines because his message is too long. But if there's no logic, there's no reason. So just keep your messages shorter. So if we've got an else, and then outside of this, we have I don't know where the that comes from, the tags, but I'm pretty sure Patrick will be explaining it.
Decimals object is going to be equivalent to the decimals parameter is going to be equivalent to this decimals function and the initial answer. And the initial answer is basically just going to be what is the price feed starting at. We actually get to pick the price of the price feed, which works out really well because that works out great for testing. I usually like to define the decimals and the initial answers somewhere outside of this function so that I can access it later. One good place you can add it is, once again, in our helper hardhead config.js. So I might do const decimals equals 8, and then const initial answer equals, and we'll do 2000. So since we have 8 decimals, we'll do 2000, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 decimal places. And then we'll export these as well. We'll export decimals and export initial answer. We could, of course, just do, const decimals equals 8 at the top, and then initial answer, and then use them down here. But I like to do it like that. So so now we have to import them in here. Const development chains. Let's also grab decimals. Let's also grab initial answer. We'll save it.
Okay, fine. We'll move it, even though you were the one inside of the thing that basically we put this here. We have this thing. This is a lot of boilerplate. So we have the decimals. We have the initial price. But I think it's easier to programmatically, or at least it's going to be accessible to other functions now. So I should have. So if we do the what's,
take a look back at the constructor. It looks like it's decimals first, initial answer second. So in our arguments, we'll do decimals first, initial answer second, and ta-da, and then we will be all done. Then we'll do a quick log, mocks deployed. Then I also like to do kind of like a big line at the end of all of my deploy scripts, just to be like, hey, that's the end of this deploy script. Anything else after this is going to be a different deploy script. All right, great. Now, our deploy mocks script is actually done, but our deploy fund me script isn't quite done.
Nope.
Is there a way that we could run only our deploy mock script? Well, yes, there is. Great, thanks for asking. What we can do at the bottom of our deploy mock script is we can add module.exports.tags equals, and we'll say all and mocks. Now what we can do is if we run yarn hardhat deploy, we can add this flag --tags, and it'll only run the deploy scripts that have a special tag. So we'll run our mocks tag, which means it'll only run our
okay, so hardhat deploy tags mocks. I'm not sure if this will work because it's not like. See, that's why I was doing 337. Error processing. There's multiple artifacts for contract B3 aggregator. Please use a fully qualified name. I'm pretty sure this is a mock issue. So, await deploy. Aggregator. If we go to contracts and test in his Mach 3, it might be the fact that I don't have literally doesn't look different. Okay. I don't know why it's doing this. I wish it would stop. Nothing to compile except errors. Oh, okay. Not going there, not doing that. Okay. Okay, so it's only used in 3 places so far. clearly that is not the right thing to do right there. So the reason why I was doing that, okay, so error processing that there were multiple adders for copying the whole thing, and we'll just put hard. Does npm install help me? npm ci. Just being careful. Should we just do... Oh, you know, the reason why we're doing this probably is because in the config here, not that config, this config, we have two different versions, which means that we have two different Mach 3 aggregators. So this then means that that thing there, we should use this whole thing probably in this deploy. It's either there or in the contract. Or actually, why don't we try it here. 50-50 chance. Maybe. Okay. So the contract is the contract address. So just in case you're having that particular issue, that's how I solved that. So there's that. Okay, so we're almost halfway through this lesson. I am really want to get through this. Okay. I also have to use the restroom. So yeah. Okay.
Deploy mock script. And whoops, actually, in our helper config, development chains is actually hardhat and localhost, and I said we're gonna try to do it with a chain ID. Sorry, we're gonna do it like this. We're gonna do development chains dot includes network dot name.
Okay. That makes sense.
Because our helper config is using names and not chain IDs. So if development chains.includes the network.names, then we're going to go ahead and deploy the mocks. So let's go ahead and run this. Yarn header deploy -- tags mocks. And perfect, we do indeed see our mocks getting deployed here. This log true means that it's going to spit out stuff like this. It'll say contract it's deploying, it'll say the transaction it's doing, and it'll say where it was deployed with how much gas. And awesome, this means our deploy mock script is working perfectly. So now we have our deploy mocks script working perfectly. So how do we apply that back to our deploy fundme script? Well, we're going to do the exact same thing here. Instead of making ethusd price feed address a constant variable, we're going to say let ethusd price feed variable so that we can actually update it. And we'll say if development chains.includes network.name.
Okay, so we might actually switch that back. So, and this is then going to be aggregator, not chain ID, but name. So if we define it up here, and then if dot includes network name.
What we can do with hardhat deploy is we can just get the most recent deployment using a command called literally get. So we'll say const ethusd aggregator
So const ethusd
equals await deployments dot get
await deployments get something.
and then the name of the contract that we deployed. Mock.
Okay. This one.
v3 aggregator. And if you wanted to just do get instead of deployments.get, we absolutely could, just by doing it like this. Those are exactly the same. So we'll get the address like this, and then we'll...
I enjoy the chaining there because it's less ambiguous. Just throwing that out there.
say ethusd price feed address equals that ethusd aggregator contract.
First of all, you're in the else statement right now, so
dot address. And then if we're not on a development chain, if we didn't deploy a mock, we're just gonna do exactly what we did before with using the network config. Whew. Oh my goodness. Now that we've done all of these steps, let's add a little log thing at the bottom here. With just a bunch of hyphens.
Just all the hyphens you could ever want. I understand this. It's not like the most professional, but it helps break the logs up so that you can see what's going on.
Now, we should have a very robust script to flip between a local development chain, a testnet chain, a mainnet chain, and allow us to deploy literally everywhere without changing any of our solidity. And then we just take this ETHUSD price feed address and stick it into the logs here. And then at the bottom,
so it goes into the args. That was very quick, very sneaky.
we can do module dot exports dot tags equals, and then we'll just do all.
So we're just going to module dot exports equals all and fund me, I guess.
And then we'll call this one fund me. Oh, now.
All lowercase? Probably because it's case sensitive.
Moment of truth. If we did all this right, we should just be able to run yarn hardhat deploy, and it should work.
If we did everything right. First of all, this should be dot tags, right? Module exports. That might not have been helpful. Yay, mad it through. Made with an E, not M-A-I-D.
Work on our local chain, our hardhat chain, and then it should also work on any testnet that we give it. So let's give this a try. Yarn.
Okay, so we've done it locally. We'll watch it while we're deploying.
Hardhat deploy. Let's see if this works. Awesome. And we got this all to deploy locally to our hardhat network. You can see that we went ahead and we deployed mocks. We did our little underline here, and then we deployed fundme, deployed at this address with this much gas. Now, one of the other awesome things about hardhead deploy, when we run our local blockchain, our own blockchain node, hardhead deploy will automatically run through all of our deploy scripts and add them to our node. So now if I run yarn hardhead node, we're going to spin up a new blockchain node, but it's already going to have all of our deployed contracts on it. So every time.
Okay. So we'll do deploy, and then when you scroll up, it'll have we're deploying this, mocks are deployed, made it through the fundme deployment, so we're good.
Time we spin up a local node now, it's going to come automatically packed with the contracts that we want on it. So we are going to show us doing this on a testnet on Rinkeby, but before we actually test it on Rinkeby, I'm going to add a little bit of the auto verification piece in here as well, because we did that in the last lesson, and we want to show how to do it in hardhead deploy as well. So right after we deploy our fundme, we can do something similar here. We'll say if developer chains includes network.name, we'll say if developer chains doesn't include network.name, because we don't want to verify on a local network. So we'll say if.
Okay, so I feel like we could just do it in the same thing. It's fine. We'll just keep it a little separately. So after fundme, if development chains dot includes
not development chains.includes network.name, the exclamation mark, aka the bang, means not when we're talking about Booleans. So we're saying if the name of the network isn't a development chain, we want to go ahead and verify. And same as last time, and if process.env
and process.env
etherscan API key,
I think it should be so nice having multiple screens. I should always do this. I just wanted to check my EMV and make sure that we are using the correct name, but also not showing you my address either. So, hey, now you see me, now you don't. But fundme, deploy, etherscan API key, just making sure we're the same, because sometimes I don't like his naming conventions or they're not super clear to me. And I would rather things be clear to me than to follow tutorials exactly.
Then we're going to go ahead and verify. Now before, we had our verify code right in our deploy code. We're going to do something a little bit different here. Instead of having our verify code in our deploy scripts here, we're actually going to create a new folder called utils.
Okay. So this should be in the here,
which stands for utilities. And this is where we're going to add different scripts that we can use across different deployments. Because let's say we have 50 deploy scripts, we're not going to make 50 deploy functions. We're just going to add them to our utils folder. And in our utils folder, we're going to create a new file called verify.js.
should probably be like verify-contract. Just saying.
we're going to add that code from our last project in here. So if you want, you can go ahead, copy paste.
So we're going to copy and paste it here, but instead of it being this, something like that.
From our last project over to this one. Or you can pause the video to type it out yourself. Since we're using the run command here, we're going to do const run equals require hard hat.
So we don't need ethers. We do need run. Do we need network? Do not need network.
And then at the bottom, we're going to do module exports. Exports equals verify. We have a verify script in our utils folder. Back in our deploy fundme, we're going to say const verify equals require //
Okay, so
utils / verify. And since now in our verify.js, we have a lot of this try catch stuff in here, we can just do await verify, and a verify once again.
await verify.
Takes a contract address and a list of arguments. We'll say await verify fundme .address, and then the list of arguments. To make the list of arguments easier to put in, you can go const args equals, and then we'll just stick our FUSD price feed in here, and then replace this with args, and then take this args and pop it on down into the second parameter here. All right, great.
I love you, Cat.
Now let's go ahead and
10:55. But if you mess up where I am in this tutorial, put you in the dumpster.
deploy this
I spend my
No.
time making handmade goods to sell, not learning how to design an online store. That's why I use Shopify. Shopify allows me to quickly bring my brand to life. So
If you're interested in learning about
Gosh,
blockchain,
darn it.
this is the course
Damn
for
it,
you.
Okay. It's time for a break. I love my cats dearly. They're clearly telling me it's time for me to not be doing this anymore right now. We are at 10 hours and 55 minutes. Holy poop, kitties. I love you so much, but no, you hate me. There's no love in return.
And parameter here. All right, great.
Also, this is a good time for me to end this right now anyway, because I need to eat and do other things, and then I will do one more session before I go and get my vaccine, and then I will come back and we will continue working on this. So anyway, I will see you later.